All right, we are live. Hello, everyone who is joining us, whether you are joining us live or whether you are watching this afterwards recorded. We appreciate you taking the time to listen. We are confident that something that we will talk about will be meaningful to you and be able to be applied. If you do comment during our conversation, sometimes those comments don't push over. So if we don't respond to you or we don't put it up on the screen, please just know it's because they don't always push over into the streaming tool. But we will go back afterwards on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube to see if there's any comments and respond to those. So we don't want you to feel ignored, and we will absolutely take time to respond to any questions or comments that people might share. I am very excited to have Deepa with me here. Deepa and I have shared some conversations virtually. We have shared some conversations in person. We have been able to talk through strategies for things both personally and professionally. I really admire and respect her. I have already in my mind started to think about some of the neat things that I think that we can talk about today, but I'm always curious to see where the conversation goes because sometimes it goes in a completely different place, and I love that that happens. So before we launch into our chat, Deepa, why don't you tell everybody who you are and what you do?
I am Dr. Deepa Macha. I'm a double board certified physician. At the age of 50 or shortly before, I knew that I needed something different. I was basically uh, a physician in the hospital setting, predominantly in the emergency department. And I was starting to feel like I needed something different. And I think I jumped off a cliff essentially to start my own business. Probably didn't think it through that much because being an entrepreneur is definitely a very different animal. I wanted to impact people in a different way. So this was a pivot for sure in a very different direction. And I opened up a medical aesthetic clinic. And I focus on regenerative aesthetics. I do a lot of medical weight loss, but my primary goal is to create impact uh, and in people in a different way and uh, inform their lives in a way that they can shine really brightly in a different way.
Yeah, thank you. And it's the reason I always have people say themselves what they do as opposed to me reading it is I like to watch. You can see where your eyes light up and where your body language is with the different phrases that you use. And so it gives people a sense of your feeling for your work as opposed to just me reading what you actually do. And I'm glad you mentioned, obviously, you were an emergency physician. That wasn't the only thing, but that was predominantly, as you noted, that was predominantly what you did. And I just think there's not a person really that doesn't have some awareness of what it would be like to be in an emergency room setting, right? Emergency room, the name itself warrants kind of that feeling of things are happening, they're urgent. You're that first line, got to try to figure out what the problem is and how to best fix it. And while what you're doing now is very different in some ways, you talked about being an entrepreneur is different. I also think there's some overlaps, right? It has to do with if entrepreneur in the same way as being an emergency room physician, you have to get used to a certain degree of unpredictability. Even though you have plans in place for if this happens and this is what I'm going to do. So both as an emergency room and as an entrepreneur, getting comfortable with knowing that as much as you know, there's still going to be things that don't come up, but also in the way that you communicate with people and helping them to understand what their options are and make decisions that are going to feel best for them with full information. And I was kind of curious if you could speak to that, like the parallels that you may see, because obviously we can talk about the difference and why you left that field, but what parallels you might find in the skills that you used in the emergency room that you now use in what you're doing.
So, emergency medicine, I mean, we all know Grey's Anatomy, ER. They made, emergency medicine very sexy. May not have been very accurate, but it made it very sexy. A lot of it was sometimes not sexy, a lot of boo boos and uh, lacerations and things like that. But the key element, I think, that is very much in parallel is a history, understanding what the patient
Mm.
or an individual is not saying, reading between the lines. And often people don't can't really express what they need or where their pain point is. And that insight really takes, you know, an individual wanting to look, because if you can't look, you can't see, right? And it's very important to look into someone's heart and soul to see what it is that they need. With what I
Mm.
do now, people often want an injectable or a treatment or a procedure, but what my job is to really see and understand what they are looking for on a higher level. Is it their confidence? Is it that feeling like they're holding back in the world to be their most uh, confident self? Seems kind of like the tagline, but it's really more than that. We're always looking at ourselves from a story from the past, and really what I'm trying to do is try to project them into a future self of where they want to go.
Yeah, I love that. And I know that you do that because I know that in our conversations too, right? It's the asking the question, that the detail that didn't get brought up. It's not just hearing what somebody walks into the room and says. And as you noted, in an emergency room, you may not think to mention something because it doesn't seem relevant or it's not the most pressing concern at that moment, but you want to make sure you understand everything that's going on. And that's the same thing with somebody coming to you. Because
Yeah.
and you've shared, there's times where you might say to somebody, based on what you're telling me, this isn't the solution or this isn't the best path. Let's talk about some other options. So being willing to gather all of that information and help somebody make a decision informed. And that's the piece, right? Giving full information and making sure that people are really confident in that. And I think what maybe inspired you, because to go from emergency room physician, again, because there are those parallels, but there is kind of a leap. Like you said, you felt like you were jumping off a cliff. What was one of the things that made you realize this was where you were passionate? Because you are very good at what you do and get extremely high recommendations. So you obviously have the skill for it, but how did you know it was what you wanted to do?
Full disclosure, I was definitely burnt out. I do love medicine. I love it. And even though I was burnt out, I went back to the emergency setting as a COVID volunteer in New York City. So after I opened this place up, I did go back. So it's not that I didn't love and I don't
Right.
love what I do. And that was a very stressful situation. But there came a point where I felt like my value system was not being met. And I love working with patients one on one, but it's not always just about that. It's also about the value system of people you work with, the hospital administration. I felt very frustrated because it was more like see more people, uh, you know, um,
Right.
and the opioid epidemic was in its height at that time. And sometimes to do the right thing, you need more time with people. And the culture of the hospital group was really dictated by administration. And I didn't feel like I was doing the right thing for patients, for myself.
Mm.
And again, I think the core values didn't match. And now I lead with core values, and I make every decision um, based on that. And it wasn't very clear to me at that time that that's what was happening, but I felt kind of trapped. You know, we all go in with our eyes kind of with wearing rose-colored glasses, and when you take them off, you can't put them back on.
Mm. Yeah. Once you know, you know. There's no turning back. You're right.
Exactly. Although I do love what I was doing, it's just that I couldn't work in the constraints of sometimes doing things a certain way, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think your choice, your actual path, right, the trajectory that you took from leaving emergency medicine to go into this field is a type of rejuvenation in and of itself. So when you're doing, you mentioned regenerative treatments, rejuvenation, those types of things, when you're working with folks on those, you can speak to it whether it's from the, something that's going to physically alter your being or whether it's from a choice that you make that's going to breathe more into your existence, right? You talked about not being in alignment. So even though what you were doing, the career was what you loved, the situation you were in was not in alignment. And so you're able to now speak that into patients. I imagine you have a lot of those conversations where you can help people not just from an aesthetic perspective, but to understand the power in really choosing their true self and doing what they feel best about.
Correct. And exactly. You speak so well, Deb. I could listen to you all day.
Oh, thank you.
One of my particular superpowers is connection, and I was not feeling that, um, because I think that if I was able to feel connected more on an ongoing basis, I would feel the impact more. And it's happened that I definitely did feel that on occasion. Like if I resuscitated someone and saved their lives, I mean, literally, I'm talking CPR, shock, 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 fly them out
Right.
someplace, and then 6 months later, they're actually in the hospital room because they're with another patient, and it's like, oh my God, So I made an impact, but
Right.
being able to, uh, this is just an impact in a different way. And when you see people's eyes light up, or you see their tears in their eyes because they feel seen, it's magical. It's really magical.
Well, and it's a powerful choice to be able to say that. I mean, this is on a much smaller scale, but you even think about when you get an outfit that you really want to wear, right? But maybe for some reason you didn't feel that you deserved to wear it, or you weren't, and you put it on and you really see yourself that change from maybe this isn't something I would normally wear. Like I talk about, like I wasn't a big sparkle person, and then I put on a sparkle dress and you're like, yeah, I'm wearing a sparkly dress, right? It seems insignificant, but there's power in that choice. So you're meeting people who are stepping into whatever it is that they're going on in their lives. Because I imagine there's a myriad of experiences that could bring somebody to say, I want to do something to change my physical being, right? I'm not happy with how I'm feeling about myself. And so you're meeting them in that moment, right? You're meeting them in that moment where they're saying, like, I'm going to take charge of this decision. So that's got to feel really rewarding because you're giving people recognition that I see you taking power, and I'm going to help you find that.
100%, 1,000%. Actually, I am not the same person I was uh, 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 1 year ago. Even in the last couple of months, I have transformed. And in my setting now, I can actually bring that to people because I have the time. I have the time, and it's actually my mission to really show people, like, look, I transformed. You can too. What we're doing for ourselves, on the outside, what really matters is that it impacts us on the inside, and that has to match. Otherwise, if you have that disharmony, I'm not sure that's a word, but if you have that lack of um, uh, uh, connection, and if it's not happening at the same time, it's not going to work. And I realized that for myself, as I was uh, able to do it, I found that there are tools out there where you can help people on the outside and also see them rise up on the inside too. And I love coming to work. I only worked part time for my entire career. Now I work more than full time. I work more than full time. I work more than 40 hours. I go home and I work some more. You know about that, as an
I
entrepreneur.
do.
It's really, but I love it. It's so exciting. And you heal yourself, you heal other people, and you know that your calling is there. And, we can always do something that's amazing. And, like what I did for 25 years in the hospital setting, saving lives, or maybe just healing people on a lesser level, working up abdominal pain, chest pain, resuscitations, trauma, all of that stuff. But now, what I'm doing is equally important and impactful, just different, and there's a time and place for everything, and you don't have to always
Right.
do the same thing. You have to be open to it.
Right. Yeah, because it's not going to be for everybody. That's why you ask those questions, because you do want to make sure the decision's coming from the right place. And I think part of what I love about what you do, and we've talked about sometimes there can be some misconceptions about what the industry, and there are people in every field that do things that are less than ethical, right, or that have the wrong mindset, right. So certainly we could take apart any industry and say the faults in it. But at the core, we're talking about, if you look at, and I think statistically they show that a lot of times when people will do something, and it might even be just one injection that they get, right? But now, because they've seen progress, they've taken control, they start to eat healthier, they start to exercise, they start to do all of these other things that injection didn't give them that. But what did is the ability for them to make that choice, and for them to, specifically with you, meet with somebody who was seeing them even before that happened, right? You were seeing them before they received whatever treatment or modality you walked them through. You had already said to them, I see you. And so they leave that ready to continue to carry on that sense of self-worth in other ways. Because nobody's going to leave your office with one treatment of whatever it is, right? And suddenly everything in their life is going to be perfect. Right? It doesn't work that way. But it's about saying, what is this going to be part of? It's going to be part of a bigger thing. And you can only help somebody to do that if you are, as you noted, getting their history, having the conversation, making sure that you know that together you're kind of opting into, yes, this is a choice that I think is going to be a good one for you.
Yes, absolutely. I see this a lot with weight loss. So, medical weight loss, and right now, semaglutide has blown up across the country, and the thing is we all carry some burden, whether it's weight or some pain point, right? And when you can unburden yourself of something, you know, you have to be very cognizant of the fact that, you have to do the work inside as well. You have to
Right.
see your inner self as equally as important as that symptom that you're trying to resolve. And until you do that, the work is not done. You know, you have to. People think that there's a magic pill, and there really isn't. We have great advances now, but still, when you see yourself from that discriminatory lens, or when we spend, who do you spend the most time with? You spend the most time with yourself. And if you're not kind to yourself, you will never, ever be able to move forward. And that all comes from the limiting beliefs that we tell ourselves, the stories that other people may have told, and we've incorporated into our story, from when we were young. And you have to move forward with a different story when you're trying to, uh, you know, make a life for yourself that is abundant. So abundance can be anything, broadly, happiness, gratitude, wealth, physical appearance, all of the buckets.
Yeah, what was so for you? You talk about limiting beliefs. If you're comfortable sharing, what was some? Because I know that as an entrepreneur, they pop up all the time. I mean, even when you feel like you're like, I got this down, that little voice comes back, and you're like, dang, I thought I put you in your place already. So what are some? What was a limiting belief, or something that you really found you had to work through? And that can be either in emergency medicine or in your choice to leave emergency medicine.
Do you want me to speak to emergency medicine, or now I can speak to both? Um,
Whichever you prefer is fine. Yeah, or both.
so if I were to say emergency medicine, I would say, I'm not the fastest, I'm not the slowest, right, in terms of seeing patients, but uh, and often you're judged by how many patients you can see and how fast you can get them in and out the door. And
Hmm.
I definitely uh, felt like I did a good job, but yet, you always are so critical of yourself. And, so am I a good doctor? It was always that type of feeling like, and I wasn't alone, but I know that for the longest time, now it's very popular to talk about imposter syndrome, but I struggled with that. I've always struggled with imposter syndrome. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not thin enough. I'm not
Yeah.
smart enough. I'm not, a good doctor. I'm not a good mom. I remember someone said to me, but you're a good mom. And I was like in my head saying, no, I'm not. I
Mm,
remember that moment very vividly. I'm not a good mom, or I'm not I don't think that now.
right.
I don't think that now, but that took work. It doesn't just happen, you know. I know now, and my limiting beliefs now are, who do I think I am? How did I have the audacity to start my own business? I don't know what I'm doing. I'm embarking on by the way, a trip. I don't know if you know, but I'm going to China in
I
less.
didn't.
No, it's just I'm getting my visa right now because I am going to go to the China Trade Fair, and I am, going to start a whole other arm of my business, and it's
Wow.
so exciting. But it's like learning something I've never learned before. You feel like you are so limited that you can't do more, and as soon as you start to believe and uh, see that you are capable, suddenly it just happens. These limiting beliefs are just fear telling you something that uh, that you allow to happen. And as soon as you start opening the door and say, I can do it, I will do it, and I'm already there, it suddenly happens. And so my limiting beliefs, every day I challenge them. In my own personal life, I started meditating. My goal is to do it twice a day, because when I do it in the morning and I do it at night, I don't have that time immediately to say, oh my God, I didn't do this. It's because I'm not smart enough.
Mm,
Or at night to say, I didn't get all of this done. Instead, when I start in the beginning and the end, I'm coming right out of, that phase and those wavelengths, so that I can actually change my own neuronal network and create new pathways of how I'm thinking. And it's happened. It's happened. I'm already you know, and and I don't mind sharing and being vulnerable in my practice. I'll tell anybody, yeah, I didn't, I had the same limiting beliefs as you. I know that I did not feel that I was good enough, and but when you have the audacity to step into that person that you want to be, you're you're going to become that person. And there were and I learned how to do it, and I want to share it with everybody.
yeah, I love that because we often, even when we're in a place of success, however you define success for you, because we all have different definitions of what success is going to look like. But so we think like if we accomplish those things that we put in that definition of success, then when I get there, I'm going to feel enough, right? Like that enough, that's a powerful word. And then we get there and we don't have that feeling because what we've done is we've attached our being, our enoughness to these external factors. When really we're enough from the moment we're born until the moment we take our last breath. We're just enough, period. Whatever you're doing, you're enough. You're amazing, you're incredible. Then there's all these other things you can do with the gifts that you've been given. But when we put them on those external things and then we hit those things and when there's still a little bit piece of us that doesn't feel quite right, we're confused and so we're like, oh, I must not be, I must not belong here. This isn't the right fit for me. And when you meditate, pray, sit quietly, whatever practice somebody uses to take the time to quiet all of the noise that we hear outside and in our own head, we have time to recognize that in that moment, doing nothing, right? Not helping somebody, not getting something accomplished around the house. When we're just sitting and doing nothing and can feel that peace, we remind ourselves that that's where our enoughness is in just our mere being. So I love that. I love that you do that twice a day. I really try to not touch my phone except for shutting my alarm off until after I've done my morning prayer meditation and I have like devotional that I read and I really like to be very intentional about that because or else it's very easy once you get on there, you just get on there, right? Like, let me just answer this person. And I think for the same reason, I want to make sure that my day is defined by that moment in quiet and not the moment of noise, which picking up a phone, whether you have the volume turned up or not, is loud.
And it's true, and we all have that tendency to go back to those habits. But once you start to see, like I said, once your eyes are open, you can't unsee it. And once you start to say, hey, these thoughts, they're not okay. It's not okay to limit myself or and put myself in that place, when really I'm going here and that's who I am. And it doesn't take long. And once you see that you're doing it, you change the patterns. And you have to sit in a little bit of discomfort first.
Mm.
And because I noticed that I was actually on vacation during Christmas time, New Year's, and I had been already like 3 months into this practice, and I started to feel just like really like not good about it. And it was because it's really hard to change a pattern of 50 plus years. It's really hard to to be that anxious person or not live in the moment. That's who I am,
Right.
and you know but I have changed the stories. I know that I'm a good mother, and I know that I'm a good doctor. I know I'm a good friend. I know that my life is going to be full of wealth and abundance and happiness. And wealth is really not just measured by the dollar signs. It's also measured by just knowing that you are exactly where you want to be.
Yeah. Well, that's what I've seen a few different people lately putting on Facebook, I think it was, like, what is your definition of success? There was a few different people who had those threads, and I found it interesting reading through. And so many people do, like, they really make a point of saying that they separate financial accomplishments from success, right? Success is all of these other things. And yet, when you look around, even some of the people who really wrote some of these beautiful definitions, I wonder if they're truly living by that, because it's very hard when we live in a world where we need to eat and we need to be able to pay our bills, right? Those things have to happen, to not get pulled into feeling like I have to do these different things. And we, to some degree, obviously you do. We couldn't sit in quiet all day and expect that our bills are going to get paid. So we have to balance those. But we have to be very intentional, because we're not going to remove ourselves from this world. This is the world that we're in, and we are going to have to pay our bills. So we have to be very intentional of, I'm still going to do those things that I need to get done, but I'm going to also have the wealth that you're talking about, which is in being really happy with who you are, and in recognizing yourself, and in recognizing yourself and your goodness, while acknowledging that there are things that maybe you could have done differently, or, quote unquote, better.
Well, and I tell my patients this all the time. It's a lot of work to work on yourself. It takes time and it takes energy. But why wouldn't you do it if you couldn't feel, if why wouldn't you do it if you could feel better, right? If you
Right.
could feel better. And I will tell you, despite taking all of that time to prioritize this, I'm making more money than I've ever made. My relationships are richer. My business is just increasing. I am creating more value for myself and for others. And so the work is definitely worth it, and it's paying off. And I would never go back. Sometimes I feel like I try to shove it down people, but in a loving,
Oh,
supportive
yeah.
way, because I really believe that, like, look, this will help you. I was like the poster child, for like, oh, this happened to me. Uh, but no, we create our future. And, so this is what I was meant to do now in this point in my life.
Yeah, and I love that you're, like you said, and I think that I can do that as well sometimes. It's we're loving into people because we want them to know, like what you said, you're going to have that moment of discomfort. There is some discomfort you have to go through, because as you sit and think, you think like, oh, if I had done this sooner or that, like you have to confront all of these emotions that you've been carrying, anxiety and stress, etc. But then on the other side of those, when you get into a place of acceptance, so that, I know speaking for me, like it doesn't mean that I feel happy all the time. I mean, I go through some days where I wake up and I feel really crummy and there's sadness and I feel stressed, right? It doesn't make those things go away. But what I do is change the way that I talk to myself about those, right? So rather than it's like, oh my gosh, I feel so awful, it's going to be a hard, I'm like, okay, I feel really bad today. So it's going to take a little bit extra. I'm going to need to make sure that I'm taking extra care of myself. And so the mindfulness that comes with it does make all of the discomfort parts that you do have to go through to work on yourself. Like you said, it's not easy, makes it all worth it. But you have to be able to be aware, look, you're going to hit some hiccups when you start. And that's okay.
Yes, and just by saying, okay, I don't want to be that person anymore. The person who was, you know, the person who was angry. When you come from that place of lack, you can't be your most creative self. What are the emotions of lack, right? They're fear, anger, jealousy, uh, um, you know, sadness. Meanwhile, when you come from and gratitude is one of the highest levels. When you are in gratitude for things, that's why people always talk about gratitude and affirmations. That means you're already thankful for something, and it's already yours. It's already yours. So
Right.
once you start correcting yourself and noticing it, things change, and it just happens. Your wavelength changes, and when you feel better and when you do better and you raise your energy level, this is a common theme among so many different religions too, and even just spiritual people like Buddha, um, you know uh, uh, and so many different practices. Because when you raise your energy level, everyone around you raises theirs, and when they raise theirs, you know, you raise yours. So you can't help it. You're attract, the universe wants to give you what you want, you know.
Yeah.
You
Yeah. I
ask
mean,
for
that's what I think. Right. No, go ahead if you weren't finished.
Nope, that's it. The
No,
universe
I
wants
was going
what
to,
you want.
yeah. Yeah. I think, the kind, right. And that's the kindness and the love thing, right? Like, and that's why I think too, like the more that you give that out. Like I started a post the other day and then I didn't get to finish it. But when you were talking, it was reminding me of this. Like, people will say the phrase like, oh, you're too nice. Right. And I'm like, I really want to push back on that myth. There isn't such a thing as too nice. The problem is that we associate nice with letting people do whatever they want to you and all of these other things. But nice doesn't mean you can't disagree with somebody. It doesn't mean you can't have boundaries. It doesn't mean you can't want to get paid for the things that you do. So there really is no concept of too nice. And so like you said, when you walk around in niceness and you walk around with healthy boundaries and healthy expectations for how you should be treated, but with kindness to other people, you feel it bouncing back at you. It's just a natural part of it.
By the way, I don't think you're too nice. I think you're wonderful, and I think you're amazing. And because of that, I look at it in a different way. I look at it as you elevate people. Your niceness, your kindness, and your generosity teaches draws other people to you. They are nice, they are kind, and then they are generous. And then people around those people are kind, nice,
Mm,
and generous. So it's really an impact that you're creating. So you can never so what I see as your kindness and your niceness is impact. And your
mm.
energy brings other people into that same same place, and they're elevating themselves and you're attracting that, and then you're creating a movement.
Thank you.
Creating a movement. Well, I don't know. Have you never thought of it that way?
I mean, I hope of it. I hope for it. I mean, and I wasn't even just using that as I was thinking more of even just hearing people say that to other people when
No,
they
no,
say
no.
to
I
other
know.
people, yeah.
And that's the other
But
thing I wanted to say. That comes from that person's limiting beliefs and what the things, the stories they're telling themselves. You can't be nice to people because people are going to hurt you. You can't be nice to people because they're going to walk all over you.
right.
they're actually coming from a place of lack, and it's a different thing, I think, from where they're coming from. And when they start to, or it's like, and you see it across all, you can give so many examples. Why are you, you feel so good about yourself, and people are like, well, you can eat that. They're coming from a place of lack, as
Right.
opposed to, wow, I can do it too, and I'm so proud of you, and I'm proud of myself, and that energy of when people say that to other people or say it to themselves, it comes from a negative emotion.
Right. Yeah, and I think it's important, and I don't want to let go of what you, so I appreciate you calling that. I mean, I certainly hope it's a movement. I mean, that's my prayer, right? Like, I wake up every day and I'm like, let me just spread kindness. But I think, so I appreciate you noting that. And then I think what you said is so true, that concept of where other people are coming from, and that's why we can counter that by being authentic and being real. Like this conversation in and of itself, right? I mean, who knows how many people are going to watch it, who are maybe watching it now or may watch it after the fact. But the more we share openly, like you sharing about these limiting beliefs that you had and how you worked through them, and about what's important to you, and how you have to be intentional, it gives a lot of other people permission to kind of go like, okay, wait a minute, because I see them and they're doing some really cool things, and I feel like maybe that's something that I can do, right? I don't want to use the word responsibility because that makes it almost sound like it's something that we have to do, but I think it's an incredible thing that we can do, that we are capable of living in such a way that it would inspire or bring somebody else hope. And especially in this virtual world, which can sometimes become, when used inappropriately, it can make it, you can become disassociated, and there's obviously things that can happen. But at its best, you and I can have this conversation, and people anywhere in the world can listen to it, and they can hear what you just said and recognize that, yeah, hold on a second. Like, niceness is not the equivalent of not having boundaries. Those are two separate things. So I can be a nice leader. I can walk into the conference room and I can be really friendly with everybody. And that's not going to mean that I don't have authority or that I've lessened the, professional culture, but rather that I'm going to help everybody be more effective and productive by being real and being connected.
That's right. As a matter of fact, the best leaders are those that lead by nurturing, as opposed to the ones that are dominating or dictatorial. And I saw that often, in my own practice, in the hospital setting. My own mentors, the people that I really cherished and loved, were the ones that really would be able to support me, teach me, train me by lifting me. And that's the type of person I want to be.
Right.
I want to support that, as opposed to, there were others too that I learned from because I did not want to do that. I did not want to be
Sure.
ridiculed or um, made to feel ashamed or not good enough. And those are the things that I don't now allow to impact me. But I took that. Take this information, and if you can grow with it, that's where the magic happens.
Yeah, I mean, now you're a leader for everybody who walks into your office looking for whatever it is that they're looking for, whatever they think they're looking for or they are actually looking for. You're a leader for them, right? Because being a leader doesn't necessarily mean having the title. It means having the ability and using it to help other people find their clarity. And that's what you're doing on a regular basis, which is why you're excited to go to work, because you're helping people to be full of purpose and be full of awareness of who they are. And that's, that you can never go wrong with that.
And that's
Right.
what we talk about when we talk about passion, vision, mission. And this is now our passion, vision, mission. We both do very different things, but we lead still with
Mm.
passion, vision, mission. You know.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, you're right. And at the end of the day, it's how can I use my gifts in the best way possible to help other people use their gifts in the best way possible. And there are so many different ways that we can do that. But when we embrace that and we connect with other people and we share that and we feed into the confidence, because there are hard days, right? There are hard days. It keeps that going. And yeah, a movement for goodness. And that's just an amazing thing, right? It's just amazing.
I knew the first time I met you, I said, I need to know her. I need her to
Oh,
be around me. I need to be around her because you elevate people. You do exactly the type of thing that I want to do and I want to know that I've done in my life, create impact, to be. And so that's why I'm like glue to you.
that's a beautiful thing to say. I,
Well,
I I really appreciate that.
and if they say that at the end of our lives, on our headstones, or if you're cremated, someone just remembers you that you did something for them that they'll never forget. I mean, that's like, what else do we need? No one's going to care if
Exactly.
you worked more or made more money, but if you can change someone's life in a small way, it's really big. And if they
Yeah.
always remember it, that means it was meaningful and impactful.
And think even beyond that, the number of people that we have probably helped, we will never know we helped. And the number of people that we have helped that may never even know we were the person, right? Maybe somebody hears the message and shares it with somebody else. So, like that, right? Like you said, at the end of our lives, that we've left these sprinkles of positivity. Yeah, I'm actually getting emotional thinking about it. But yeah, we've just so much potential, and every single person, so much potential to create positive impact. And so I appreciate very much when you say those things to me and speak that into me, that becomes part of everything I do from this point forward, right? Your words now become part of my journey and become part of whatever impact I make in the same way that I'm, sharing things that are impacting the way you choose it. So you just, it's really powerful when we take time to say those things to people. So I thank you for taking the time to acknowledge and say that to me, because that's fuel. That's fuel that will forever sustain me.
I want to say one more thing to you. Our listeners probably think that we've known each other for a long time. The truth is, it's only been a few months. And
Yep.
there was a time in my life where I thought, like, I don't need any more friends. I didn't think I could make any more relationships that I needed. And I'm learning that's not true. Like, there are people that can come into your life that can really impact you and make you grow leaps and leaps and bounds. And you should allow it, open yourself up to it, because you never know where you're going to go next. And even if that person was, uh, I don't know, like, but it's been such a short time that we've known each other. But I know that we will know each other forever, and we will constantly, um, uh, look for, whatever it is that we've. I don't know where I'm going with this, but you get my point in my
Ways
journey.
to feed into each other. Yeah, ways to feed into each other's missions. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I'm grateful for you. I don't know how, but you inspire me with the unending, commitment that you have to just continue to help people and you know um, teach people so much. I've learned in a short time so much from you, and
Thank you.
you've made me a better person in just that short time. And uh, and that's the type of thing that you have done that I can tell you that you may not realize, because there are times in my mind where I see people, um, and I think, she does this, and I've seen you in the last few months in my mind, and I'm like, maybe I don't think that I have value, but I really do. And I've seen you particularly, and you're not afraid to provide value in whether it's a huge way or a small way. And as long as you tell someone something that they need to hear, often it's when they need to hear it. and it can really change their trajectory. You've done that for me.
Thank you. Well, I love that. I appreciate that. I'm grateful that life has given us the opportunity for that to happen in the same way that I'm grateful for the way that you've influenced me. And, you know, from our first conversation to this conversation, I love that this is unfolding in the way that it's unfolding, because I think, like what you're noting, that we've only known each other a few months, right? And that's the power of when you live fully and with purpose, the connections you make with people in brief amounts of time are so deep, right? Are so deep and so fulfilling, because you don't have to peel back some of those layers, right? Like there's not the like, let me get past all of this.
I want to clarify that a little bit further. So, because this wasn't that long ago, it was a few months ago. So, I told you that I've been on this amazing journey and I'm doing, I see myself so differently. But when I first met you, I felt like I was in a room where I didn't belong, for example. And you
Mm.
were a safe place, because of your openness, because of the way you embrace other people around you, the way you lean in, the way you talk to people. And I was like, I need to be next to her, because and it was that first step that made me realize I belong here. I belong in this room. I'm as good as everyone else, because those thoughts still creep in, even though I didn't think that they were there. I mean, I'm noticing now that they were there, even when I thought I was over it. They're still there. And, you helped me get to that next place. And, and there are people that when they hear this from me, they're like, what? You're like a rock star. You're a doctor. You own your own business. You did all of that. You have 3 amazing children. You are successful. But yet, I still have that voice that I have to shut down. Like, I don't belong in this room with these high powered people. They don't think I'm good at what I do, and you helped me get past that time. So I'm going to tell that truth right now.
Well, I receive that truth very, very much. I will say that you were a rock star in all of those other ways that the people saw you. And because that voice that was inside of you didn't negate any of those incredible things you did, but I've heard that I have the voice as well, right? We've all got that voice. And so I think, I will retain this conversation long beyond the ever whatever it does on, whatever engagement or different things that happen. I will retain that, because that speaks directly to what my concern is sometimes, is, am I really making people feel seen? Like, that's just I just always want people to feel loved and seen. Right? I want to walk away from a conversation, and even if I completely disagreed with somebody, I don't want them to ever feel like, because I disagreed with them, they weren't seen and loved just because they're there. So you saying that to me really, it means a lot. And I can hear in the way you're saying that to me, the way that you must speak to, because obviously I'm not there when you're with your patients, the way you must speak to your patients, and the way that they must feel, like you're speaking into my being. You're not just saying kind of surface things like, oh yeah, thanks for helping me. It really helped me get going, right? So that's a gift, right, in and of itself, to be able to speak a compliment into somebody in a way that makes them know, like, you're really saying this. This isn't just surface words. So I appreciate that you took the time to share that truth. I want to make sure, because we're at 48 minutes, that people are able to connect with you and follow you and ask you questions about not just what your journey has been, but about your industry and what you're doing and how they can make discerning choices about it, because people are wondering. So, what is your preferred way of people getting in touch with you?
I'm not crazy good at social media, but I'm learning. So I'm on Instagram at www.cosmeticlasermd. I also have a personal Instagram that I decided that I want to share some of the more personal things with. That's Deepa Macha MD. No, I think it's Deepa Macha MD. I've been trying to share some of the softer side also on TikTok, and that's Cosmetic Laser MD. I'm also on YouTube. where I'm trying to share things that are more like a library, and spread knowledge in a bigger way, and
Oh,
teach
awesome.
people. I do focus on regenerative aesthetics. And I think it's important to take shame away from wanting to be the best version of yourself on the outside as well as the inside. I mean, I always want to look my best. There's nothing wrong with that. And I always want to feel good and look good. I want to be able to exercise. I want to feel beautiful, but that comes from the inside. And so my own mission has been to uh, teach myself and teach others how to do that. And there's different ways to do it. You can do it naturally. I believe in sharing your story. I believe that you do not have to shine to dim anyone else's light for your own to shine bright. And that was a little bit hard with the world of social media. You feel like someone else is doing it better, that someone else is more popular, that someone else is prettier, skinnier. And I especially have a passion for teaching that to our impressionable younger people who grew up with social media, because it's
Yeah.
really a dangerous place sometimes. And uh, again, you just have to be your brightest self, and just look to create impact and to help someone. Um, we both know that hope, right? Help one person every day. And if you can do that, you can really be the best version of yourself.
Wow. Well, I was going to ask you for parting words after you gave your social media, but I think you just gave beautiful. So, I mean, you're more than welcome to add something else, but I kind of like that message as
That's
being,
it.
yeah,
That's it.
that's that, and that reflects you very well. So, I think like if people were wondering, you talked about all these different things that you're doing and where you came from, like what is your mission? Like what you just said is your message is your mission. You want to help people, and you want people to feel confident in choosing the paths that are going to let them be the best version of themselves in an informed way, right? In
That's
an informed way, because we can only make great decisions when we have all the information necessary to make those decisions. So I hope that people connect with you, and I've seen, I know, your social media presence is growing, and I've enjoyed watching you become more and more visible on there, and that's important not only because, to your point, we can be concerned about what other people might be saying or doing better, but like there are people who will only be able to hear that message from you. I believe that there could be 10 people who could say the exact same message, but there's only some people need to hear it from the right person, the right tone, the right way, the right time of day. So there's never too much of sharing goodness. There's never too much of that message that can be had. And
amen.
yeah, and I'm honored that I get to now, henceforward, be on this journey with you, and that you've so openly and transparently shared your love with me. That truly means a lot to me.
I'm very grateful for you. I didn't start with that gratitude, but I want to end with it. I'm
Excellent.
very grateful for you. I'm grateful for
I'm
everything
very
you
grateful for
taught
you.
me, and I'm grateful that you have so much bandwidth and passion to do what you do.
Thank you very, very much. I appreciate that. I'm grateful for you. I thank you for joining us. I thank everybody that joined us live, whoever's watching after the fact. Clearly, we love you. You can hear it in our voices. So I hope that you feel that. And we hope you all have a great rest of the week.
Have a wonderful week, everyone. Thanks, Deb.